Welcome to leftstickrightstick. Today we take a look at another Dreams community creative jam. Today's theme is bugs, bugs, bugs. So there's expect a lot of creepy crawlies. In this jam, sculpts, mini games, and characters were the main features of the entries, and there's some really interesting stuff. Some sort of crossed over with actually some of the other old themes as well. So in the top 10 we have Jumping Spider by Sikorsky UH60. Now this is specifically a character. As you can see, there's actually the spider. You can do a lot of stuff with it. There's jumping, lunging, attacking. You can lock on to an enemy. You can retreat, and it's just basically a proof of concept, or proof of this character works and how you can interact with it. This was actually a remix of an actual spider character sculpt that was made by another creator that actually was also in the top 10 of this creative jam. So we'll look at that a bit more later. But there's the added logic. What Sikorsky UH60 has done, added a lot of logic to this sculpt, actually make it a usable character, as it were. Whereas the other one that it's remixing from was just a sculpture on its own. Now, this whole sort of scene or dream is just you trying to attack these ants. There's not much really to do. It's just proof of concept. There's, you can attack them. They just had some sort of health bar. What I don't quite like about this, the animation is really good. What I didn't quite like is that, there's the attack button doesn't really seem to be doing much. It would have been nice if you were adding logic to it to add some, obviously what a spider's known for, some webs. So that would have been really cool. But apart from that, this is a really cool proof of concept stage, and I'd like to see it implemented this character put into an actual level where you actually use his attacks and stuff. Next up, we have a Stranded teaser, number 2 by Tinder. So this is just a little short teaser video about the upcoming level by Tinder called Stranded, where you're actually this little blue guy. You're not Bug. This whole movie is actually very nice, I have to say. I do really like this whole little teaser. It is very engaging in many ways. It keeps you interested because there's lots of nice detail here and there. The thing that I don't quite like yet about being in the top 10 of this level is that there's very little bug related stuff to it. There's one firefly that comes up to you at the beginning, and he flies around, which is quite smoothly actually. I quite like the animation of this. It's just that this is not very bug-themey, in my opinion. Nice forest, though. I like all the different characters in it. Obviously, the main blue character is quite nice. The bug's actually quite nicely detailed. Well, not all too detailed, but, for its purpose, it's like cartoony, which is very nice. There's an owl there, too, which is pretty cool. And this sort of moving head thing, which was also very interesting. The level of detail in this forest was also very nice. Very good animation. It's just that, I'm not... Apart from that one firefly, I don't really see the bug thing, and it doesn't seem to be prominent enough to, really be warranting so many votes to become the top 10 in the Bugs jam. But, if you liked it, let me know in the comments below. And, if you like these creations, click that like button below as well, guys. So, next up we have the actual Jumping Spider sculpt, which was done by HydroFrog64. This was a really, really amazing sculpt. I really loved it. The level of detail on this was great. And especially, it's the use of the whole furriness. I can't remember actually the name of the attribute or the the value that we have to change, but the fuzziness really, really works with this spider. It makes it feel very much like a tarantula. It's got that skull pan at the end. I actually don't know. It would have been nice if HydroFrog actually put somewhere, instead of calling it jumping, unless Jumping Spider is the actual name of this spider, maybe some other name for it too, would have been nice. But yeah, this is really cool. I really like the detail of the fuzziness. It really works with what it's meant to look. It looks very realistic. The eyes are nice and shiny, as you kind of would expect. It's there's a high level of realism in this, as well as a little cartoonism to it as well. I'd say the only part that would be a complaint maybe is sort of the front antennae, 2 side nodule things, tusk-like bits seem a bit too furry in that respect. But apart from that, this whole sculpt looks very good and probably deserving of higher in the ranking. Next up, we have Bee Keeper by Nurbldoff. I hope I'm pronouncing that creator's name right. But this was a very, very simple scene. As you can see, there's nothing to be done in the background, just a simple grass patch, 3 beehives, and the normal puppet with a little hat on top. And so you can actually, bees are following you, and you can actually stop them. You can't actually kill them. What you're spraying doesn't actually kill these bees, it seems. It just stops them and gives you time to run away from them if you really wanted to. Obviously, there's no real aim to this. This is just showing a beekeeper. And obviously, these 3 beehives, it seems like they have a set amount of bees that come out of each one. And so their proximity is sort of activated. When you walk closer to one, bees start coming out of it towards you, and they all just kind of gather around and swarm you. The bees actually, when you're able to, they look relatively nicely detailed as they're supposed to, although I feel like they end up coming more like wasps rather than bees. There's like not quite that level of fuzziness that you want, but after a certain amount of time, basically, you've pretty much got all of the bees out of the beehive and they all follow you, and it clearly lags a lot, as you can see. The bees at the beginning, they were really quick to respond to your movements, and then once we have, I don't even know how many there are, I can't even count, there's too many dots on the screen, but once all of the beehives come, you can just slowly walk away from them, and it clearly lags enough that you clearly, they can't catch up to you. But overall, I still like the idea of that level. And if you want to count how many bees there are, that's probably the limit, how many independent creatures you can have in a scene. Next up was actually a really funny level, I think. It's called Shower Ruin by ZenManifold. This is a sort of mini-game style level where you're actually a person, you're not the bug, and then instead of actually trying to squish it, you're actually trying to avoid the cockroach. I don't know why anyone would want to be trying to avoid it while staying in the tub. Obviously, it's got a unique sort of bar here. It's called a roach luck. So basically, I guess that's its HP, the cockroach's HP bar. You can stamp on it or hit it a few times until it is dead, which that part doesn't quite make sense. But the rest of it is quite nice. I like the whole claustrophobic feel of this bathtub. It does feel like you are really trapped in here with this cockroach, which is kind of good. Obviously, you could actually just get out the bath and just smack it down with something else. But never mind that. So the weird thing of this level is just the whole I am the human and I'm not trying to kill something, I'm actually trying to avoid it, while all the indicators are actually for the thing you're killing. So that's kind of weird to wrap yourself around. Camera at times was a bit awkward, I think, and as well as the actual movement of the cockroach doesn't actually seem all too random in my opinion. It felt like, because I was kind of remembering the way it moved the first time around and followed it again, and I actually managed to get a higher score, I think, because of it. So who knows, but interesting minigame nonetheless. Next up, we have a nice little still scene sculpt. This is a Cincidilene. I hope I'm saying that right. Probably not. This is a tiger beetle, basically. It's made by Liu Zi. I really like the actual level of detail of this tiger beetle. I also like the actual background that's been done. So, the whole, both of not just doing the sculpt, but actually doing a scene, the background to, envelop the actual sculpt as well, which is very nice. I actually really like the mushrooms, the detail of the grass, rocks, etc. from the other plants. The actual other little plants seem to be comparatively low on detail. Unfortunately, in this whole scene, there's no camera movement, there's nothing about it. It's just one still camera, and you can't move anything, you can't zoom in, you can't see anything, which is a bit of a shame. I would like to, maybe, even if we can't control it, maybe if Liu Zi did some actual camera pans so we can see some things in more detail, etc. That'd been really nice. The actual bug itself was probably a bit too shiny for my liking, but it was still very, you can see there's a level of details. I like that there's, the legs or skin or whatever you call it on a bug is actually not fully smooth. That's actually, nicely thought out there. The reflections actually do seem like it would be kind of realistic in many ways. And I feel like I actually like the mushroom more than the bug, but it's a bit too shiny there, but I still really like it, this whole scene. Next up, we have another character. This is Dungy by DanPer237. This is an interesting one, a dung beetle, obviously, as you can see. I do like the detail of the legs. The legs of the dung beetle are actually very nicely done. And the actual look of the dung beetle itself looks relatively accurate, a bit too shiny maybe again. So I'm not too sure if it's just the way everyone's thinking of the lights. And, because even when you see those documentaries, they do have a sort of shine to them when you see them in real life and stuff. But I always find that the bug characters in Dreams maybe have a bit too much shine, and this is just the case again with Dungy. It kind of really annoys me that this dung beetle doesn't fall down when we're moving away from the dung ball, and it's just still standing up, which is very, very weird and awkward. But I guess the actual motion though of the dung beetle does look relatively accurate, because I remember seeing dung beetles in documentaries before. It seems relatively accurate. The actual movement seems right. Pushing the dung ball along, it just looks weird when the dung ball actually gets away from you. It just like, we could have added some more extra logic to have maybe the dung beetle crawling on the ground and then press a button to like lift up and then start pushing a dung. That would have been a really cool addition. But overall, this is actually still very nice. Obviously, the movements are quite simplistic, but still a very good dung beetle. Now we're on to the top 3. This is Metal Beetle by Captain Jaw. This is actually quite an interesting little character too. Another character can crawl. It's got a lot of logic pieces to it. This one, it's like a little robotic kind of beetle, kind of what you'd expect, maybe like have a spy kind of bug thing. At least that's what it looks like, although the noises that it makes are far too loud. And actually, I feel like after a while it gets a bit annoying with the whole flying motion thing, but then I guess that's technically fitting. So, some things about this metal bug is obviously fly. Actually, the wings are, quite solid, so when it flips on its back, you can actually use the wings to flip it back up into an upright position. I'm not sure if that was deliberately intentional or just a happy coincidence, but it's quite nice. I really like this the wing movement sort of thing. It does feel very techy and sci-fi. It's quite good that Captain Jaw has put all the instructions constantly showing on the bottom, just because there's not that many controls anyway, so that's a good addition. This whole scene has been sort of laid out for you to actually properly play around with the metal beetle. It sort of gives you a bit of an objective to try and do rather than just randomly move around, which is actually a nice little addition to the scene. I do like the glowiness of the eyes. That's actually pretty cool, as well as this whole form factor. Everything about it just looks right about it. It's just that what I found really annoying was the controlling of the flying. I couldn't quite get the right leveling. I kept ending up flying upside down, but a good beetle nonetheless. In second place, we have Stag Beetle by Mono71 USA. This was just purely a sculpt, but obviously you know by now, if you've watched other community jam videos, is that I like it when these sculpts have actual camera panning around them, because it saves you a lot of the effort, as well as being able to show and go into all the details, and especially it helps the creator show what they think is actually the highlights of this sculpt, which is very nice. So obviously Mono71 USA here has done actually two sculpts. He's done one normal looking stag beetle and one sort of fantasy and tamed beetle as well. I really like the actual level of detail. Both the stag beetle and this one, actually the shininess looks just right in the whole lighting element of the stag beetle itself. That's really good. I like the really details of actually all the extra additions to this. It's quite annoying that the whole movie cutscenes only focuses on the stag beetle that has added changes, the ant people on top of it. It makes it feel like this was actually a remix rather than just Mono71 USA himself, which is a bit of a shame. But the level of detail of all these attachments, these additions to Stag Beetle, also I really like the detail of it. What I didn't quite like about these extra ant people, basically, they just seem too cartoony and basic for my liking. But overall, very impressive, and I really like this sculpt. And in first place, we have Lidas again with Praying Mantis. This was a very, very beautiful scene. Just like previous one, it's a sculpt. There's actually some animation involved in this. Lidas actually animated some parts of the Praying Mantis, the head and some of the arms. And obviously, again, they've got set cameras as well as a continually rotating camera. So, it really shows all the good points. Well, I'm not really sure about that, but it really shows you, going around the whole creation, makes you see the details in this Praying Mantis. It looks very realistic in my opinion. Maybe a bit too shiny again, but still very good. I really like the actual background has done properly in scale and everything. That's actually a really nice touch. I did find some of the preset cameras a bit awkward and weirdly placed, but it does bring attention to different parts of the Praying Mantis, which is still good. So in the Praying Mantis, you've got the moving arms and heads, very subtle, small movements, which is actually very nice and sort of in line with what a real Praying Mantis is. I do feel like maybe there could have been a bit more motion added though. So sort of maybe twitch the legs a little, or just maybe the butt or the wing bits at the back to actually move a little bit, just because when we're focusing camera around there, it just felt too still compared to the front. It was a real shame. But the rest of it, this is really beautiful and definitely deserving of first place. So, I mean, let me know what you guys think of all these bugs creations in the comments below. And if you enjoyed any of the other ones, stay tuned, subscribe to leftstickrightstick for more Dream CCJ reviews. This is a special mention here, Bug Report by ED209B.